Thank you for joining us together. We're pleased to have you joining us today for this webinar that is presented by the University of Alabama College of Continuing Studies. My name is Bill Baker. I'm with Firestorm. Today we're talking about creating an intelligence network. This is actually part one of a two-part presentation because of the volume of information that needs to be covered. And our presenter today is Karen Mazzullo, and we're pleased to have her with us. Karen, there we go. We invite you to become our Facebook friend at Firestorm Solutions, and you can also follow us on Twitter at Firestorm Soul. There is a hashtag for the session. That hashtag is Crisis Coach. Firestorm transforms crisis into value and empowers you to manage risks and crises. Firestorm expertise is crisis management, critical decision support, crisis communication, crisis public relations, and consequence management. Keep in mind the presentation today is not complete without the accompanying oral comments and discussion, and the work product must be read in conjunction with advice from your organization's personal counsel. And this information should not be interpreted as legal advice or legal opinion. Firestorm is delighted to have a wonderful working relationship with the University of Alabama College of Continuing Studies. And the picture that you see there is our good friend Brenda Truelove. Brenda, you have some nice information for us today, please.
Yes, good morning. Hope everyone is well today, and appreciate this opportunity to work with our great friends from Firestorm to let you know about the services that we're offering here in the College of Continuing Studies on the campus of the University of Alabama. University of Alabama is prepared to help individuals pursue their educational goals and career growth pathways by providing custom training, online courses, certificate training, and special events. We host most of our training events here at the Bryant Conference Center, where I'm talking to you from today. It's our flagship training facility named in honor of Coach Paul W. Bryant. We are here to help organizations build excellence in the workplace, and our custom training and individual training helps individuals meet their individual goals and objectives to help them in the workplace. So we are very delighted to be talking with you today, and we're really going to be highlighting an upcoming course that's going to be several months out. But Bill, if you'll go ahead and show the screen, yes, the people that we will be targeting in this event are business executives, IT professionals, and management teams. It parlays very nicely into the topic for today's webinar, which is about cyberforce security, the risk and mitigation consequences that need to be business owners and C-level, B-level employees need to be aware of. We're really wanting you to know that we have selected a very talented faculty member from the Intelligence and Security Academy, Mr. David Augsmith. He is a well-known expert, and he's also been co-chairman of the FBI's Information Technology Study Group and a member of the Secret Service Task Force on Computer-Aided Counterfeiting. It's co-sponsored by our University of Alabama Cyber Institute. Dr. Reg Hyde is currently the Executive Director of the University of Alabama Cyber Institute. He's a former Deputy Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence and Security. He has a very widely known career in the CIA and National Clandestine Service Operations, along with Dr. Mark Lanier, who's Associate Director, who is very talented in working with faculty members and students and has a wide variety of academic publications on human trafficking pedagogy. This event will be January 21st, 2016 at the University of Alabama here at the Bryant Conference Center. We don't really have the price point set for this event yet. We're just in the very early stages of this event, but did want to let everybody know the date so they could get it on their calendar. We'll be posting additional information at our website, which is listed here, training.ua.edu. And my contact information is listed on the screen there, my email address and telephone number. So we really appreciate this opportunity, and I'm looking forward to participating today and hearing Karen's presentation. I know that she is very talented as well, and we're delighted to partner with Firestorm today.
Thank you, Brenda. This is Karen, and thank you everyone for joining us today. We too are delighted to work with Bama at Work and the University of Alabama. And at the end of the session, we'll hold that screen that has that information on the session coming up in January, and you can go ahead and take down any information you need from there. Also, during the session today, we have quite a bit of information to cover. So we may not get to any questions during the session, but you are more than welcome to use the GoToWebinar chat box area to type a question. We'll collect those at the end of the session and update you either individually or create a short brief for you that we'll distribute if there are a number of questions, and make sure that you have the answers that you need. Today, we're talking about building an intelligence network today and what that means. And it impacts every aspect of the business. Originally, when different types of social media tools emerged, they emerged really specifically for marketing. People saw this great way to chat with each other in a manner that many people could view at one time, and marketers quickly adopted the technology because it's bright and shiny and new and interesting. Whenever we adopt a new technology, however, we're going to bring along with it inherent risks and abuses. And so most people thought, well, you know, we know what some of those challenges might be. We think, you know, maybe one of our employees might say something online. We think maybe a customer might say something about our products or services. If you are a school or an organization, you worry maybe there might be some student conversation that you need to be aware of. The challenge is you don't know what you don't know. The portion of what you do know, I know that I know a lot about social media, so I'm pretty confident in that. I also know what I don't know. I don't know how to speak Chinese. I'm pretty clear on that too. But the realm of information that I don't even know I don't know is vast. And so we're going to talk about how you're able to surface some things today. You know, Firestorm has identified 5 common failures in a crisis. Failure to control critical supply chains. We've talked about that on University of Alabama sessions in the past. The failure to train employees for both work and home. I'm going to skip and go to conducting exercises and updating your plan. You've got to practice, and you must have a strong crisis communications plan. But the third point is the one we're going to talk about today, which is identifying and monitoring all threats and risks. You may have done a thorough assessment on the physical building where your employees reside, but there are virtual risks that we need to look at as well. You know, we asked a question in one of our sessions, do you currently use external intelligence to identify potential threats? 30% of you just weren't sure at all if you did. A larger percent said, no, we don't do that at all. And 30% said, yes, we do. So let's look at our 67% and start opening up some conversation for you to carry back to your organizations to talk about what are we really doing to identify some of the things we didn't know until the session. You know, there are certain types of incidences that have very specific warning signals, and I live in a hurricane state, so we keep our eye on the weather, and we know days in advance when a threat is coming. We may not be able to pinpoint the exact mile marker where it'll come ashore, but our National Weather Service has become so sophisticated in giving us a warning. I also live in Charleston, and there are other incidences that have no warning or very subtle warning signs. Sadly, recently, my city experienced one of those with a mass shooting at a church that I'm sure most of you on the call are aware of. And many people say it came out of the blue. Well, actually, there were subtle warning signs. And that's what we want to talk about today, is how we go about identifying those warning signs when possible. Because what we don't want to have happen is for new learning and new information to occur in panic mode. We want your folks to have been practiced, to be ready, so that when an aberrant situation occurs, there's a lot of muscle and intellectual memory that occurs and allows you to manage the process in the crisis more effectively. Now, before we get into how Firestorm goes about assisting companies surface this sort of blanket information in this whole large world of social media and funnel it down into actual predictive intelligence, we're going to take a really quick look at emerging technologies. Because every time something new comes out, a new risk or threat occurs along with it. So we have tools that monitor for what we now consider traditional social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, etc. But every day there are new tools that emerge, and we have to look at them. We have to see how quickly they're being adopted by the public, how heavily they're being used, and if they too must be added into the toolbox that we use in order to help you predict threats. So Destructs is a new one. You know, we had Snapchat last year and the year before, and a variety of other tools came out that said, if you take a picture or send a message to somebody, don't worry, it's going to be destroyed in 30 seconds. Well, we know that's not quite true. We know that I can take a screenshot of it very easily and leak it out to the web. So Destructs says that any message, photo, or file shared privately or on social media can be uploaded without fear of having it remain with the recipient, and that with the touch of a button you can wipe out everything that's occurred. Well, that gives, I think, people a false sense of security, because we do know, again, anybody can take a screenshot. And so I think we're going to be seeing some challenges from this from people maybe within your own organization or about your organization that feel that they can share information and it will quickly disappear. And I don't know that that's actually true. One of the other services that we're seeing growing is Yo. Yo started out a couple of years ago as a very simple social application, and it was a way you could send somebody a yo. So, hey mom, yo. Now they've expanded to images and video and other content, and it's getting quite a lot of adoption and attention, so it's something to keep your eye on. Culture Sphere is for an internal. It's a social sharing platform that is designed for internally inspired media. Again, there's a caution here, and we want our employees to be able to share with each other and share great ideas, but additionally there's the challenge of confidentiality. If I believe that something I'm sharing is in a secure environment and it's just going to be within this group and it'll never walk out those doors, I wonder if that's not a false sense of security, because we know, again, you can take screenshots, you can share in a variety of ways, so that poses a little concern. Hyper says, let's discover and share with like-minded people and just text them a link to their phone. So we can, if I'm someone with ill intent, I'm going to have malware at that link, and an unsuspecting person is going to see that, think it's from a trusted source, and go ahead and click that link, and your IT people are not going to be happy about it. So it's something that you have to keep your eye on. Meerkat live streaming video, Notch, Periscope, Rounds, Shots. These are all different applications that are emerging that people are using, and you and your technology group and your marketing group, you all need to be aware of how different new technologies are being adopted within your organization. I wanted to show you this one specifically because I see a couple of risks here. For those of you who are in school organizations, or just those of you on the phone with who are parents, is YouNow. And YouNow is a way to broadcast yourself live with people watching in real time. So the day I took this photograph, Degosaurus had 1.3 or 1,300 people watching him. And there's a small chat box off to the side of the application where they can say, you know, tell us your favorite color. You know, what kind of shoes do you like best? Sadly, however, what we've seen is, especially when young people are involved, those messages become quite disturbing. And the challenges that are requested of the person broadcasting can become very unsavory. Additionally, I can see everything in that person's background. I can see their room. I can see their trophies in their trophy case. If it's someone from an office, I can see papers on their desks, books on their bookshelves. So this is cause for caution to me, and it's something we believe you should know about. So we keep up on new technologies as they're emerging so that as we need to, and we're building intelligence networks for our clients, we can work with our key providers of services to assure that they are looking at or adding in the API that allows us to monitor more than the 30-some-odd social platforms that we currently do. And when I talk about monitoring, this is what it's all about. The first thing we do when we work with our clients is we set a baseline. What are we really concerned about? There's a huge conversation universe out there, and we have to narrow the information down into a funnel that specifically relates to you, your people, your property, and the subject of interest that we have identified as a threat via a threat assessment. So we look at the conversations, how people discuss them, what are they discussing, excuse me, and what are the indicators that may signal a threat or a risk to your business. So what we're looking at is a geo search that we've conducted that shows a great deal of Instagram and Twitter traffic, some Yik-Yak traffic. It's on a specific property that covers a couple of square miles, and we can zero in right on it. And one of the things, you know, we can see here is if I'm the owner of a fast food restaurant and this kind of a message is surfacing about dropping someone off at work, and as they got through the drive-through, offering her to hit a blunt, I think that's something I'd want to know if I owned that specific business or property. And I use this specific example because it happens quite more often than we might assume, and I'm going to show you why in just a little bit. So once we set a baseline of the conversation, we start looking at deviations in the conversation. We look at what's the norm for this conversation, and we put it into context. So we may suddenly see a surge in a specific phrase or reference, and our team of analysts may dig further and realize this is from a song. These are song lyrics. This is from a poem. This is a popular meme going on around the web. This is related to a popular television show. So we need to bring it into context first. We need to decide if the person who's posting, "I'm happy you brought your gun to work today, good job," is a public service officer, a police officer talking to another, or is because they didn't get tickets to a concert that they really wanted to go to. And we look at it and understand the essence of previous conversations that led up to the one that we may be focused in on. When I see a message that says going to kill someone at work, I need to put that in context. I need to understand, is it because a rack of clothing fell off in a retail store and the person was frustrated, or because there has been a growing conversation around frustration with a specific employee or in an instance. These are all public postings. We're not looking at anything that is private or hidden. These are things that people publicly post all the time. And we can look at a risk meter then and say, in addition to these conversations we're looking at, anytime you see this specific word, fire, bomb, or perhaps those words together, let me know that it's a specific risk so that I can alert my client that we see some new conversation of concern. Now, we have to remember, especially when you're talking about looking in a general way at what people are talking about, your brand, your company, your school, or your organization, what's protected. Your employees can have conversations that are certainly protected. There are off-duty conduct laws, protections for political views, protections for whistleblowers. There are prohibitions on retaliation and certainly concerted activity protections that we know under these laws. An employee who is fired or disciplined for posting about low wages, poor benefits, difficult management, or long work hours would have a plausible legal claim. Now, you can download a brief of this session on our briefs page on our website. I'll show you where that is at the end of the session, and you can read this information in more detail. But the thing that amazes me is that people just continue to talk on social media in ways that we just really wouldn't expect them to do in such a public format, because they believe that if they have an anonymous account, there's no way to identify who they are. And I'm going to show you in just a minute how we can zero in on a specific person in geography, whether they are anonymous or not. In this particular instance, you may have read about this a few months ago. A young woman had been talking about going to an interview and posted that she got the job, but in the way that she said it was, ooh, I start this blankety-blank job tomorrow, thumbs down. And she did not realize that prior to the interview, her new employer had followed her, or she forgot, and he said, no, you don't start that blankety-blank job. I just fired you. Good luck with no money, no job, no life. Now, one of the things we say at Firestorm is be cautious, because your first response might be the secondary crisis. In this specific situation, this is a small, individually owned private business, and at no time did he realize that that tweet that he made would have 3,832 retweets and would be favorited, where people clicked it and made it part of their favorites group 4,324 times. And this was early on in the day that I grabbed this, so that grew over time. Became a national story picked up by national media outlets. The gentleman removed his account, and it created quite an issue for him based on this exchange. So not only do we have an employee who's saying something that needs to be taught how to use social media appropriately, but we also have a business owner who created a secondary crisis for himself. Something our President Jim Satterfield says is that social media is not random, it's targeted. It's always about something, otherwise people would not post it in a public forum. It's about someone, something, someone wants some attention about a specific subject. So what we do is we identify that target, subject and person, in this chaotic conversation universe to allow you to make more effective decisions when it matters most, and that is what we call critical decision support. So in this specific instance, this was a school. I saw a note, I saw something go by, a message go by that said, I'm taking my gun to school, and it alarmed me. I see that quite often, and when I dig down further into the context of the conversation, I can generally ascertain whether I feel it's something that needs to be elevated to a higher level. And based on this person's profile and previous conversations, it alarmed me. And so I moved forward on following this up. It took me 32 minutes to identify from a completely anonymous account where I felt the geography most likely was, where this person most likely resided, and then within a specific mile radius, what the most likely school or school system was. We alerted the leadership in that school, and indeed were informed that the school did follow up and resolve the situation. Shockingly, the person continued to post, and they said, I think I'm going to be expelled from the initials of the school because there was a bullet found in my locker and a clip found in my room, FML, which if you don't know what that means, message me after the webinar and I'll be happy to let you know. So we are able to find through a completely anonymous account a real threat. So whether there's workplace violence, escalation, or a school or in a business, we make sure that we observe and see what are people talking about and why are they talking about it. You know, right now today, when people talk, they talk on social media. I'm just giving this as an example because there are times when you just need to be more aware of your environment and how you're posting than at others. And sadly, Paula Deen is once again a good example of this. As far as Paula Deen is concerned, it was completely their social media manager's fault. They took the fall for posting a photo from Halloween of 2011 to their stream. Well, this raises a really important point. My feeling is that while the social media manager's posting of this older photo may not have been the wisest thing, who trained that person? Someone had to sit down with that person and say, here's the history of our company. Here's the history of the challenges we faced. There are certain subjects that we must be mature about, and we must have a mature voice on social media. We must be adults in how we manage this account. And as such, the following types of posts are not allowed or highly discouraged. And having her son appear in brownface, given the past accusations against the brand, would have been a key learning. So even if you've hired a third-party company to manage your social media, there has to be a rich conversation about how are you going to represent my brand, in what voice, how will you source images, where will they come from, what's allowed. So there was a real lack of training here. And you know, that picture matters a lot. Words matter, images matter, the intent of it matters. But people don't care what you meant to say, they care what they're interpreting. And so we, again, must be very cautious and mature in our approach to social media. And then we must be able to look at it and measure it and see what is the impact of the conversation that is occurring around our brand or school or organization. What you're seeing here is an image of Subway after the information on Jared Fogle came out that someone who was associated with his organization had been arrested for child pornography and that Jared Fogle's own property was being investigated. This was over about a 10-minute period. They went from an average of 50,000 impressions of their brand name per day to more than 8.5 million. And I dare say anyone on this call, when they went to look at what are people saying around my brand today, if they saw FBI raid and child porn associated with their brand name, you would not be happy about that. My point of view on this is written up in a blog post. It's on our website. I encourage you to read it because many people said, well, you know, Subway didn't have much time to respond to this. It's a really good point in there in that you don't have any time right now to respond to anything. What happens in your organization today, what happens on social media today is in your organization now, tomorrow. You must respond immediately. And technically, there was a window of opportunity back in March when the original, or April, when the original arrest happened, for there to be a conversation, for there to be message mapping and strategy laid out, and that wasn't done. Subway did remove Mr. Fogle and everything about the Jared Foundation from their websites. They went so far as to have people cover up posters in their windows with smiley faces and other information, and it just looked poorly executed and poorly organized. Now, Once we're talking about the conversations that we see, it's important for a strong team of analysts to understand the language that people use. You know, you've heard kids using the word fleek, F-L-E-E-K. It can have different meanings in different parts of the country. Some parts of the country, it's a word for an illegal drug. In other parts of the country, it's the word for a legal drug. In other parts of the country, it's a word for doing something really well. So we look at messages. In this case, what we see is someone who says there are 100 of them, they're in the streets, they're flocking or mobbing through the streets, and that's when a group of people goes from one end of a city to another, and they may do some vandalism there. There may be other issues, and this person is very clearly indicating that they have a weapon. So we look at the semantics of speech, syntax, context, and idiom. Now, once you've got all these pieces and parts, we've done a threat assessment, we're working with you to understand what are the conversations of concern that may indicate threats. We're not just looking at your brand name, but we're looking at geographies. We're looking at your address of your business. We're looking at very specific conversations that may relate to issues or challenges in your specific industry or company. We then listen to the patterns of conversation where and as they occur, and assure with you that you actually have a policy in place that's enforceable. In this specific case, we see someone who is at work, and the whole time they're at work, they're saying very objectionable things, racist in nature, about all kinds of groups. It looks like no one escapes this person's diatribe, and she takes pictures where she's working and finally says, I'm going to be online shopping all day at work. Life of a chaplain assistant in the Army. This is pretty shocking. And she says, I'm a squared away soldier in real life. Good luck coming to my chain of command about some, oops, I didn't hide that expletive, apologies. But she challenges people. I promise you, if you go to my commander, they're going to say I'm a straight-up soldier. This is not a problem. Well, it was a problem. Sadly, it was not identified first by the United States Army, but rather by a watchdog group. Now, if you're a high-profile organization or even a low-profile organization, but you're a high-profile in your own city, your own town, your own neighborhood, it is really important that you catch these types of behaviors prior to some sort of watchdog group bringing it to the world's attention, as happened in this case. And we look at a geographical level because there are two ways we approach this. First, we listen in a broad manner to all the conversations, that chaotic conversation universe. And then we look at very specific people of interest, or geographies or addresses of interest. In this case, we're able to zero in on a specific location and see that somebody is, again, hitting a blunt through a drive-through window. In this specific case, maybe it wouldn't have been so bad, but someone who followed the account that originally posted it reposted it. And it wasn't just an image, it's a Vine video. And that person had a significant following. And very, very quickly, this image of this person at this specific fast food restaurant hitting the blunt went viral. And it wasn't just at that place. It's at many places. We see this quite often. We see it at all types of businesses, on rooftops, at the back door, in people's cars, in parking lots, while they're at break, at every different kind of business. So we need to understand what are the behaviors of concern to your business. We'd like to help you identify some new ones that you may not have known you didn't know. And then we combine the risks, threats, and vulnerabilities to create predictive and actionable intelligence. And we look at instances such as these kinds of conversations, narrow them down to let you know that someone at your organization is afraid that someone is bringing a gun to work, someone has been bringing a gun to work, someone has been bringing illegal substances to work, and we would rather they tell you than tell the world through social media. So when we listen to that broad conversation and then look more closely, we have, aside from new and emerging technologies to be concerned about, we have other ways of conversation occurring. And when we look at syntax and idiom, we have to look at emoji. Emoji is a new language. It's the language of images. And there are whole sets. There's a Wikipedia encyclopedic page of emoji icons. And our application, one of the applications we use, said, Karen, this is a threat. We see somebody posting an image of a policeman with an image of a gun, and we know this is a threat. Once we see that, we can then look more closely from a geo-analysis point of view to a specific person or property or both in combination. So here's an example of where we've done that. And we started observing an escalating conversation someone was having with themselves. I had to go off on a white guy at work today. When I get off work, I have road rage. I barely talk to anyone anymore. And Firestorm has built an entire practice around behavioral risk threat assessment. We understand when we're looking at behaviors of concern. On one day, actually, I show 49 tweets on December 1st in this specific area, but actually after I took this screenshot, this grew on this specific day. There was a great deal more conversation. And we see it escalating. People want me dead. They want me to fail. Actions speak. Some days I'd be ready to go to war. And every day is stressful, stress going up, no respect for a liar, no conversation for a hater, no loyalty for a fake. And he actually posts a picture of himself while he's at work using a hashtag that's popular with a specific group of people. And then we see him use a common meme that people who feel they're being persecuted, we see quite often. I have no beef with nobody, I'm chilling, might have a couple of MFs that don't like me, but they ain't making no noise. It's a common meme we see. And in the background of this, if the image of the tweet wasn't there, what you would see is this person actually walking around the building. We can see the building outline. We can actually see them walking through the building, tweeting all the time throughout this specific facility. Sorry, I went to the wrong way. And finally, we'd see culminating with him beginning to say that people are beginning to bug the expletive out of him for real. And we're able to work with the employer to notify them that there was, there was an escalating situation. And it's a great reward to be able to do that, because if we can alert you ahead of time that we're seeing a behavior of concern, and your folks can step in and follow your behavioral risk threat assessment plan and keep a violent activity from occurring on your property or to your people, it's a great feeling to be able to provide that service and that support. And that's what we did in this specific issue. The one thing that is important when you're working in this kind of an area is to make sure you have trained intelligence analysts that are working on the information, because we want to avoid, as a different word, apophenia, and that's the experience of sort of connecting dots where there is no connection. So it's very important that you have an objective party looking at the data who are experienced and able to analyze whether a real threat exists or not. So in summary, what we're looking at is broad listening, creating conversation aggregators to identify what's being communicated regarding your organization and your people. And then we take a different step and we look more closely. And we focus in on a specific location, an event, or person based upon an identified crisis, risk, threat, exposure that exposure that we've seen when we're looking, because what we want to do is buy you time when it matters most. We want you to follow best practices. Call us, contact us. We'll talk to you for an hour and work on a free assessment with you. Specifically mention that you are on the U of A session, and we'll work with you to make that assessment happen. We want you to have a written plan. We'll be happy to talk to you about the existing plans you have in place, and we want you to create an intelligence network. In our session next week, we're going to be digging down a little bit more deeply into exactly what that intelligence investigation might look like. Because in times of crisis, your intelligence network is going to become critical to decisions. So not only do we want to listen for threats, but we want to make sure that you're working with other social accounts that may come to your aid, not only your brand advocates, but police, fire, other critical organizations within your geographic area that are important to connect with during a crisis situation. We really want you to think through your internal and external messaging as well, and to make sure that you're not posting things like the Paula Deen post or this one from Jim Rome, who insulted all marching bands and was firmly corrected by the Army field band. It's one of my favorite responses, retorts. Ahead of Mother's Day, Spotify said, let's come up with a way to teach your mom how to use Spotify, and got immediate backlash from it. How would you explain ageism and sexism to a Spotify marketer? That was embarrassing. And one of the ones, again, sadly in my hometown, was at the College of Charleston. There was a bomb threat because there had not been prepared message maps, testing, and training on the technology application. A message went out to the entire school and surrounding businesses that there was a bomb found. And afterward, the College of Charleston's president did not handle the messaging well. Firestorm says quite often when you're explaining, you're losing, and this is a very good example of that, because the College of Charleston president's response became the story rather than the original story that there was. You know, at Firestorm, we want you to be able to predict a crisis, and we believe we can help you do that. We want to help you understand what warning signs may be for your specific business or organization. We want to know what the indicators of a crisis may be for your specific organization. And we take those indicators and look at identifiable patterns and find the crisis before it happens, and allow you to measure how people receive this information from you in an organized, orderly way. And that's why we follow a predict, plan, perform process to build a comprehensive program for you. As promised, this is one of the last slides in our session. I'm going to come back to this in just 1 minute. This is general information for the fabulous event at the University of Alabama Bryant Conference Center. And also for you on the call, you can go to the Firestorm website right on the front page, or under Learn on Demand, there's a section called Webinar Briefs. You'll be able to see a playback of this recording on our YouTube channel and download a brief of the session itself. Plus, you can download many other session briefs, such as the current sessions we're doing with Dr. Robert Chandler on the 6 stages of communication planning. As always, we're here to help you predict, plan, and perform. You can contact us at webinars@firestorm.com or at 800-321-2219. And again, at the Bryant Conference Center, January 25th, 2016. You can find out more information at training.ua.edu. And I want to thank Brenda Trula from the University of Alabama and everyone who's on the call today for participating and sharing more information on how you can protect your organization from the universe of social conversation that can signify a threat or risk to your business. I want to thank you all for joining today, and we'll answer any questions that came in through the session in an email to all attendees. And I hope everyone has a great day, and this will conclude our session for today. Thank you, Brenda. I appreciate your participation.
Thank you, Karen. I learned a lot, as I always do. Appreciate everyone being on the call.
Thanks, folks. Have a great day.